Hi guys, welcome back. As I said last week, I'm going to be here on Hairbrained Facebook Live at this time every single Monday evening. The series of haircuts that we're going to be doing is called combination cutting. As I was saying last week, but I'll just recap it for anyone who's tuned in for the first time. It is a series of haircuts that demonstrate how to use the combination of scissors and razor on one head. I'm focusing more on things that are more applicable taken back into the salon, because I feel like certainly what everyone's going through at the moment, when we get back to the salon, it'll be nice to bring some fresh ideas and some fresh takes to our clients, because obviously they're going to be looking for new things. We're going to be excited to do some new things because we've been restricted for so long. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on these four things. The final one that I'll do in 3 weeks' time is a little bit more conceptual, but there's still elements of it that we can take back to the salon. So what I'm going to do today is more of an exaggerated asymmetric. I'm going to use predominantly the razor, but I'm going to use a little bit of scissors as well. I'm going to finish more refining the outline with scissors, but I'm going to show just a little. It's more of a graduated bob type shape with some asymmetry to it, but I've done 1 or 2 details that just make it a little bit different, that help with tucking it behind the ear, and it just adds a little bit more interest that I feel as a hairdresser cutting it and as a client wearing it. So I'm going to let everyone come back through so that no one misses anything at the start. As last week I said, I will get around and answer everyone's questions, so feel free to send questions through onto the feed, and I'll answer as many as I can while I'm working, but any that I don't get time to answer, I'll absolutely go online afterwards and make sure in the comment section I get back to everyone with any details that you would like. So let's get started. First of all, I've taken a side parting through the section. Maybe if I lift this up a little bit so the comments aren't coming through. Right, so I've taken a side parting and I've followed that through. Now normally with a graduated bob, then what I would do is I would separate from just behind the ear as you would normally do, and then take a central channel through the back and then start to build your graduation. What I've done differently in this is that I've continued, I can slide you in here, I've continued the line of the side parting all the way into the back. So there's some asymmetry to the sectioning through the back, so that side parting is continued all the way through and gone in here. So if you actually see, if I lift this up, there's only a centimetre or so on this side. And what that means is I'm going to start to build my graduation from here, which is going to let me take this side shorter, and it's going to let me have much more hair to play with to create a really exaggerated long shape through this side. It's a technique I've been playing around with a little bit at the moment. I've done it on a couple of clients, and what they really like about it, if the client wants that real exaggerated asymmetric shape, what they find is that if the back is really, really level, and then they just have this bit a little bit shorter, it doesn't really flow. So I thought if I was to take a quarter of the back in, start my graduation here, and then let this be tucked behind, so you have this real kind of nice, neat little haircut, and then the long length just flows through to the side. It's a tiny detail, but it makes a big difference. So, I'm just going to spray a little bit of Day through. For anyone that's just coming in now, what I said at the beginning, if anyone asks any questions, I will make sure I get to them either on this live through looking at them on the feed, or I'll make sure I go through the comment section afterwards. So I'm going to spin around to here, so you can see that. So you can see the side partings followed into here. So all I'm going to do, where the occipital bone would be, I'm going to take a diagonal section and then isolate that. I'm just taking some time to comb the rest out of the way. Okay. So I'm thinking the best way to show the angle that I'm going to create is if I go in profile. So I'm going to pull out through here. So you can see that I've taken that triangular section So I've just seen someone that's just asked, can someone tell me the cut that we're doing here? So I'm going to do a graduated bob, but an asymmetric graduated bob, and I'm starting, not just the front that's going to be asymmetric, the actual graduation in the back is starting far into the right hand side, so that the graduation doesn't start in the centre. So I'm going to come through here. I'm pulling it onto the profile so that everyone can see right through, so they can really see the angle of the graduation that I'm going to take. So you can see I'm starting from here, and as I said last week, it's important to remember that we're going closer into the head as we move with the razor. So I'm going to start from here, and then I'm going to go closer into the head. So if I comb that out with my comb so you can see the angle, you can see that I've created this here. And that's the main thing when you're doing graduation with a razor. One of the most important things that I find to do is to gain the confidence to move closer to the head as you work. We have it's a natural inclination to move away from the head with a razor, one through fear of taking too much hair off, and obviously not wanting to go too close to the actual skin with the razor. But with this technique, it's so important that you, as you would with scissors if you were graduating, that you go shorter into the bottom so that you build that graduation and that weight line out. So I'm going to trim this out of the way a little bit neater. So I'm going to come through here. So I've got my graduation line. I've taken another section. In fact, that's a little bit steep, that section, because I'm going to spin around here. I'm going to work my way around. So I started quite high, and then I'm going to come around like a clockwork. And when I'm happy with the angle that I want to create, and what's going to dictate that is the line that I want to create through the side. So I've started here, 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 here. As I arrive at the angle that I'm happy with, I'm going to stop and then bring everything down back onto that. I've seen someone's asking to bring the camera closer. I'm about this far away from the camera, so I don't think I'll be able to get in if I bring it any closer. So you can see we were here, and then I'm going to work around. So I'm becoming less vertical. You can see Anna Pachito's just come in. Hi Anna, good to see you. Nice, spin around here again. You should be able to see the angle that I'm creating. So I'm pulling this back onto the previous section to start to increase length. You can see there, I can see my guide underneath, and then just take that in here. I'm not too bothered about the hairline at the moment because that's what I'm going to use the scissors to go in and refine later. So I was here, and then I'm here, and now I'm going to go less vertical again. My sections are about 1 centimetre thick. There we go, so you can see now within 3 sections where I've gone from here, here, and now I'm here. That's still a little bit too steep for the angle I want through the side, so I'm going to take one more section where I become more horizontal. So bringing back onto this line. After each cut, I flick back around. Are you keeping a stationary guide at the occipital? No, I'm bringing back onto the previous, so I'm not letting it travel around all the way, but I'm bringing back onto each section so that I don't want to bring right back into the middle, otherwise I'm going to increase the length too quickly. So I'm going to flip to the wide teeth, as I like to do after cutting each section, come back, come forward, and I can start to see the angle creating what I want to create. So as I said, I'm going to come a little bit more horizontal here, something more like an angle that I want to create. I'll take into the sides. All these haircuts that I'm doing over these next 5 weeks, what kind of comb are you using? A YS Park comb. All these haircuts that I'm going to do, I'm going to let dry naturally. I said it on the live broadcast last week that one thing that we all have at the moment is time, and working in a salon doing clients, as you know, we're all, how can I say, we're all work to a time limit, don't we? We've got the next client coming in, or the client needs to be out. But one gift that we have at the moment is time. So I'm using this time to not dry any of my haircuts. I want to cut them and just see how the natural movement is going to affects how they would be, rather than me going in robotically and starting to wrap dry and blow dry. So I will post the finished result, but I'm going to let this haircut dry naturally. So you can see I'm pulling this section back onto the graduation line. I can see it in here. Slip into the wide teeth again, going backwards, and just let that sit in. As I said a little bit earlier, I'm not too worried about this at the moment because I'm going to refine that afterwards. I just saw someone ask about the razor. The razor is, I've been very fortunate. The razor I used was my mum's razor. She started hairdressing in 1972, I think it was. And I haven't got that year right because she might be watching. I might have made her older than what she is. This was her razor when she was bought her kit when she started training. This was the razor in that, so she gave it me a few years ago. So you'll notice as well that I straightened up the head block. Because I'm going into the sides now and I want to really create a true angle of the finished shape. If my head was forward and I created an angle that was going longer towards the front, as most of you probably know, as I lifted it up, it would go shorter and it would round up. So my angle would be spoiled. So I'm splitting this section. You'll notice that because the angle of the section is diagonal, I'm going to pull it slightly back so that the line I'm creating is parallel to that. Let's see the natural movement. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think there's so many little nuances in the hair when you let it dry naturally, and so many things so many happy accidents that I would never normally see. It would be, I'm liking doing that at the moment. I just want to say one thing about the angle that I've been using on the razor. You'll notice when I was creating the graduation through the back, I had the razor more vertically and I was pushing it in because I wanted to create it. I wanted to make it very, very soft and almost like I didn't want to create anything that was too hard because I want the graduation to be soft. So that's why I was working this way. But as I came through to the side and I started to pull the line onto here, you'll notice I flipped the razor to be more horizontal because I want to create a blunter line. And if I was going in this way, it's fine, I'd still get my line, but it'd be a little bit softer. So that's just a fine detail of working with a razor, how you can get a different finish to the line just by the angle that you're using. Okay, so I'm coming back through. You'll see that I'm pulling this back slightly as well. One, to increase length, but two, I want to be cutting parallel to the section I've taken. And because the section is on a diagonal, if I was to pull here, it wouldn't flow. So I'm coming back onto there. Parallel, parallel, razor parallel. I'm taking that length. I'm coming back. Back again. You'll notice as well, a little tip with using the razor, depending on how soft you want your line, depends how much you move up and down. So say if I wanted a really soft line, I'll just flip the razor so I don't cut anything. I would be going all the way up here. So obviously then I'm creating the much more texture, more layers, much more of a diffused line through the edge. But because I still want to keep a solid line, but I just want it to have, I don't want it to be so blunt, I'm taking it down, and if you notice, I'm only moving a centimetre or so that there's texture, sure, but there's still a structure and an outline to what I'm creating. So I'm going to work through here. So now I've found the angle that I'm happy with, I'm going to stick on that and take a parallel section, so I'm not working around anymore. I worked around the clock until I got the angle that I want, and then I'm going to work to that, pulling everything onto that. Okay, so I'm pulling back, parallel razor, back onto this line, pulling that down. Flipping the comb into the wide teeth, just to comb it back. I find that flipping after each section, just flipping to the wide teeth, combing back and combing down, it just helps me see the shape I'm creating. This is a guarded blade that I'm using. I see that one of the questions just came in. So again, I'm pulling back. Okay, so coming through to the final section on this right hand side, so you can see the line of graduation that I've created. I'm going to add a little bit more of the Day spray from Davines. Oh, Davines, you may have seen it, we just created a collection at the end of last year that's just been launched a few weeks ago called the Eternals, Portraits of People. And all the haircuts in it are in the same vein of this. And what I mean by that is strong haircuts, but they have a softness and a texture and a wearability to them, a bit more of a relevance. And what I mean by using the word relevance is, yeah, I want to do strong work and I want to do conceptual work, and I like to do that. But I also want to do work that I could take on to my clients, and or someone else that, say, comes on a course or watches something I do on stage can take back and to their clients. So that's the avenue that we went down with the Eternals collection, and that's the avenue that we're going to be going down with all of the Davines collections that we're going to do coming up. Is, yeah, strong work, but still work that has a relevance to real life. So what I'm looking at here is that if she was tucking it behind her ears, does it have this little kick on the jaw? That's what I like. This part of somebody's jaw, I think it's beautiful when there's a little kick, and as that dries and contracts, and that's what's great about using the razor. You can just have these little cute kicks that maybe you wouldn't see as much if you use the scissor. So I think there's another question. So when you've left the hair dry, will you be going back to texturise and finish? Probably not, no. I'm going to finish everything when the hair's wet and then just let it dry. If there was anything that I really saw that was out of shape or I didn't really like, sure I would, but no, 99% of it will be done when it's wet. Where can you see the collection? If you head over to the Davines website, or head over to the Davines professional website, we have videos, you've got how-tos, you've got technical content behind the colour work. We've created editorial campaign videos for it, so yeah, there's a lot to see. So that's davinespro.com. So I'm going to spin around so you can see this little thing. So can you see we've almost got like a quarter of graduation, right? If I come in really close, where normally that graduation would come all the way through into the centre. But I think there's something quite nice about just having this little bit. I'll comb it all straight so you can see the angle as well. So, to refine the outline, you might remember, for anyone that wasn't here right at the beginning, I said that I was going to wait till I finished all the graduation to refine the outline, which is what I'm going to do now. So, you can see my graduation, it's here. But this, and I do want some softness left on the hairline, but I don't want this much. So I'm going to come through, points of the scissors, and I do want it to be quite soft and textured, so I'm not combing it too neat. You'll notice when I'm using the points of the scissors, I'm not coming on an angle, I'm coming almost vertically, because I really want to create a very, very soft textured diffused line, and if I was coming in on an angle, I'm going to be chipping her away and creating little triangles in the outline, and I don't want to do that. I'm just going to take some diagonal sections. If anyone can hear a baby crying in the background, that's my daughter. Doesn't sound like she wants to go to bed this evening. So, I'm just seeing how that's going to flow in together. So this corner's still too much here. Okay, so taking that in here, and now I have this graduation through there, coming through into this side. But what's beautiful about it is that I can tuck it, and because there's this graduation, you see how that sits in? If I stand behind it so you can see against my t-shirt, when I tuck this down, she really has this graduation. But what I find is, if I start the graduation in the middle, and I didn't work it all the way across, when the client tucks it, it's still very heavy behind here, but having this graduation closer to the corner, I've actually got the most shallow part of the graduation right behind the ear so that she doesn't get any of this bulk and this weight. A couple of questions coming in. Do you point after the hair is dry? Yeah, definitely I would do. I would have a look, and once the hair is kind of fluffed up a little bit, if there's anything that needs refining, of course. What kind of scissors am I using? They're the little black scissors from M&P. The video that we did last week, I posted a link in there. So if you went and looked on that, you'll see the link to where to get them. So, we've got our graduation, we've got this beautiful little kick that's just sitting on the corner of the jaw. This has got a nice profile, and then we spin to the front, and then we just have this little kick here. Right, so I'm happy with that so far. So now, what's great is now, I've got this graduation, or this quarter of graduation, just through this right hand side. But now I've got all this hair, the majority of the hair, 3/4 of the back, and all of this thicker side to have fun with and go through and create a real steep graduated angle with the razor that's going to drop very, very exaggerated and a nice contrast to this. So I want this line to start kind of coming down here. And because I don't just have half of the back of the head to increase the length, I have 3/4 of the back of the head to increase the length because we've done the graduation over to the right. It means that I've got a lot to go and I can make a really, really exaggerated shape. So we're going to use the exact same technique as I did last time. We're going to come up with a triangle section, quite vertical. In fact, a little bit more, can you see that? A little bit more vertical than that. And the section is off out of the way, a little bit neater than that. Okay, right, I think maybe the best way to show this, just like I did on the other side, is if I come more on profile. So yeah, so you can really see the angle of it. Okay. So if you look through the hair, you can see the graduation on the other side. So I'm going to come in here, start there, and I'm going higher and tighter into the head. And that's the main thing with doing graduation with a razor. You've just got to have the confidence to start out and finish closer in. As you would with a scissor, you would start here and you would cut into the head. It's the same thing. So I'm going to work around the head. I'm coming less vertical now and moving up around the clock. So I was here, and now I'm here, and I'm going to work around into the side. But what I'm going to do differently on this side to what I did on the right hand side is I'm not going to work around as much, because if you remember, I want to keep this very, very exaggerated. So I'm going to keep the section more vertical, bring everything back onto a more vertical line so that I increase the length through here. A couple of questions. Do you find the right hand side easier to cut than the left? Yeah, absolutely, yeah, I do. Because I'm right-handed, I can cut into that side, which is probably why I chose to have the most amount of hair on the right-hand side to make it easier for myself. Okay, so I'm pulling back on, someone asked about the guide before. It's not a stationary guide. I'm pulling back onto the previous, so it will move around the head. I'm going to take that section again just to make sure I went in enough. I'm going to spin around here so you can see the movement of the guide. So you can see it was here, and then it's here. I'm going to go a little bit higher and work around into a more horizontal line. But remembering that I'm not going to go as horizontal as the other side so that we keep increasing the length. Okay, I'll spin back so you can see the profile of the cut while I do this. So I'm coming back onto my graduation line. Pulling back onto that previous one. So you can probably really see that graduation start to increase and go longer. Why don't you tilt the head forward when cutting into the nape area? Because I did on the other side, but when I find this side easy enough, especially with the razor, that I don't really need to do it. And because I want to increase the length quite dramatically through this side, I want to have as true a shape as possible. So if I tilt the head forward, I'm going to have to do a bit of the graduation and then tilt it up when I go into the side to make sure my line is true. So I feel like, because I find it easier on this side, I can do it just with the head up straight. So it works out all right. But on the other side where it's a little bit harder for a right-handed cutter, then yeah, I would tilt the head forward as I did. So I'm going to come around one more time, moving around the head. But that's as far as I'm going to go. Just clip that out of the way. This is the angle that I'm going to be cutting the side on now. I'm not going to work around the clock anymore. I'm going to stay here, so the line I'm creating starts to increase quite quickly. Can you do this haircut with scissors, or is it not the same? No, absolutely you can. It's just going to be a little bit, have a bit more structure, a little bit heavier through the ends, but if that's what the client wanted, or that's what the client's hair required, you know, i.e. that it's a little bit finer, or it needs damage, and it needs more of a solid outline, then yeah, you could definitely do this haircut with Another point as well is, depending on the client's hair thickness, depends what angle you're using your razor on. So if I want to create more, make it heavier, I'm going to use more of a horizontal razor, as I just did then, because I want to start to build that weight up here. But as I'm coming through to the sides, I want this to be really soft and textured. So you'll notice I'm switching to be more on this angle, so more vertical with the razor, so it's getting more sliced rather than me putting a solid line in, as I did on this side. Okay. So continuing with that line, I'm going to go in and take the side. Adding a little bit of the Day spray again. Is your elevation staying the same in the back? No, the elevation on the back is coming up a little bit each time. So it's more that, you know that feeling when you're cutting graduation where you just know? So I'm pulling it through here, I can feel that guide. I'm taking the hair off, but I am elevating a little bit each time, so that the back then doesn't end up like a real heavy wedge. What's it? What's the other? As the other side, on here, I'm going to start to elevate as I get through to the side here. I'm going to start to pull back as I did there and elevate. Yeah, you're right. So you can see I'm pulling onto that line. Razor is parallel. Get sticking under here. I'm going to spin around so you guys can really see. A razor is horizontal and it's parallel to that line. So you can really start to see this exaggerated shape that we're creating here. Add a light spray through that. So I'm pulling back onto this section, elevating out slightly. Parallel, pulling the line back. Split that section, pull it back onto here, and switching back now onto more of a vertical razor, so that I'm getting some softness. So you can see this line's getting really quite exaggerated, and it's going to create a real nice, it's going to give me room to get some nice wave in it, but it's going to create a real nice contrast to this shorter side. So I'm going to continue on this angle, lift up through here. But I feel like, well, if I'd have started in a traditional graduation, which, through the centre of the back, and had then exaggerated the line through this side, I wouldn't have had as much space to work with. I wouldn't have had as much distance. I could have exaggerated, but I would have only had half of the back and then going into the side. But because we decided to start the graduation right over on the right hand side, so more of an asymmetric graduation, I had 3/4 of the back to get that real flow through the side. So it's a small detail, but that extra inch or so makes a big difference when you're trying to increase the length of the haircut. So coming through here, I'm just combing. If I spin around and show you this, I'm just combing this crown area and letting it fall as naturally as possible. So I'm coming out, elevating it, still working on the same angle though. Pulling it back. Pull this in. So again, pulling it back onto that line. You'll notice when I get to a point where I feel like I want it to be heavier, I switch to horizontal, and when I get to a point where I feel like I want it to be lighter, I switch to vertical. And then now we have the final section. If any one of you uses the Day spray, then you know how good it is at acting as a cutting agent. Just makes the hair, the comb and the scissors or the razor just glide through the hair and keeps it nice and moisturised right up until the end. Okay. see. I'm going to lift up a little bit so that she's above the comments, so that it's not blocked. Hopefully it's not. Okay. So I'm going to start to, with my hands, work through here so that we can see. I want this hair to contract and I want the waves to come through so I can really see the true contrast with the shorter side on the right. I just added a little pin through here, so I'm going to just take that clip out. And then I'm going to apply a little bit of the curl building serum through the ends, because it really helps that, especially on these doll's heads, it really helps it contract and gives it a beautiful curl. Because I'm going to be drying everything naturally, I'm not going to be using any hairdryer or any brushes on, I really want to give the hair the best chance of having like a really soft curl to it, rather than just drying and it being a little bit heavy and a bit flat and not really having some movement. You know, I don't want to let it dry naturally and then it just have, you know, just have like natural waves. I still want it to have a style and still want it to have a kind of certain texture to it. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do, just get, as you would with a client, I'm just going to get tilt the head upside down. Just scrunch some of that curl serum in. I'm going to use a wide tooth comb back. I'm going to add a flat clip just behind the ear so that can start to dry and kick out as I want it to. And then we're going to come through and have a look at the hairline through the back. So I'm going to go back to the fine comb. I'm just going to comb this down and make sure that I like the flow of it. I feel like this, it's a little bit untidy through here. So again, vertical points to the scissors. I can see a question coming in about texture of hair. I would say thick hair works well with this, because the entire thing about it is creating a dramatic contrast in the two lengths, and thick hair really shows that off. Finer hair maybe this bit would feel a bit light on really fine hair, so I'd say the thicker the hair, the better for this cut. Much like these blocks have a good consistency to them, so. Just refining that outline. Okay. So I'm just checking as well if there's any little overhanging pieces. But now I've started to tease the hair and just let it fall into its natural shape. If there's any little overhangs like this, I'm just going in with the razor, quite freehand, and taking those out as well. So, I'm going to spin around and just pull out a little bit so you can see the shape. So you can see we started in this quarter section of graduation through here. Started with quite a steep graduation and quite a high diagonal, worked around the head until we were happy with what angle we wanted to take the shorter side, stopped and brought everything back onto the line, and then we had all of this 3/4 of the back and all of this left hand side that we could create this really, really steep, exaggerated line. if you wanted to cut this style shorter, would you do the same thing, bring your graduation higher? Yeah, absolutely. You could do a version of this that was 1 inch or 2 inches shorter, absolutely. The only way that I wouldn't do that is if I quite like that it can tuck behind the ears, so I would never just go shorter than what could tuck behind the ears. That would be my only thing. Another question, it was at the salon, would you have the client leave with the hair still wet, or would you dry on the back? What I probably would do is put under the heater, and if she had time, I'd much rather just let it dry naturally. If she didn't and she wanted to be a little bit quicker, I would either get someone or myself, if I had time, to stand with the diffuser over the head with one arm behind my back so I'm not tempted to start to touch it and start to scrunch, or put it under the heater. Okay, so we have this tucked, exaggerated, asymmetric cut. When this is dried in about an hour or so, I'm going to, on the comments feed, I'll post a finished version of it so everyone can see how the graduation is contracted and moved around. And if there's any comments that I've not had time to get to or throughout the thing, then I'm going to be going on to the feed tonight and answering them. So, thank you very much. I will be back same time next Monday on Hairbrained Facebook Live we have a razored Patti Smith type haircut next week, where we're going to be using some square layering, then a really exaggerated mullet shape. So thanks for your time, I really appreciate you all watching. Hope everyone's staying safe, staying well, stay cool, keep out of trouble, and I'll see everyone again next week.